Hello everybody. So my goal on this channel is to save you times. The HIMS CEO Andrew Dudum released an interview that has been heavily commented on X, and it is the best interview yet. And so I'm gonna tell you about the nuggets that I heard in this interview, an hour long. This title, by the way, does not do justice to the interview, and the down 66% in 6 months, that's for the clicks, but that doesn't do justice to the so many nuggets that were dropped into this interview. So let's go. If you're a HIMS investor, hopefully we are going to learn some stuff. You are going to hear new things. So first of all, labs. Labs are a loss leader. We know he said that multiple times on the call. He reiterated that. He actually called it, I understand it as him calling it like kind of a gift to the world. An opportunity for people to get screened. Labs that would be thousands of dollars, they now are sold at cost at HIMS. So he's essentially disrupting the labs industry by not making a profit on labs. And, standalone companies like LabCorp, for example, they make a profit on labs. Dudum is like, we don't make a profit on labs, we make a profit on the pills, on the treatment. The labs are the top of the funnel. They're a marketing tool. This is how you get access to better health because, of course, if they see a problem, for example, heart health indicators being out of whack, boom, they can sell you a pill, they can sell you a statin, for example. So labs are a loss leader. Point number 2. And this is new, and I loved hearing that. Interviewer asking him about Epic and how they compete with Epic, because Epic has all of the data, so how do you do it? And of course, first of all, Epic has a lot of issues communicating from hospitals to hospitals and family offices and mom and pop doctors. Epic is something like only 75% of the market, by the way, right? There's other competitors to Epic out there, but Epic is what? It's an electronic health record system used at most hospitals. Most more heavy stuff will use Epic. It's a very bulky software. It looks very much like a SAP. It's a private company, obscure, very little is known. And Dudum had a really good take. He was like, a lot of the people that we take in our electronic health record has no Epic records. If you have never been through a local hospital or a local emergency room, you're not going to have any records with Epic, right? You got to enter the legacy system to be kind of gated within the Epic software. And so even though Epic owns the legacy system, the fact that they decided, of course, to not use Epic, but to build their own electronic health records is a moat that HIMS is building, and it's so underappreciated by the HIMS crowd. The software on the back end with the health records of the patient is actually something that could become very valuable down the road. And there's a lot of compliance that goes into it. It was tough to build. The fact that they built their own, to me, is quite impressive. And the fact that the new customers, perhaps the first time they encounter an health issue to be treated is with HIMS, I think is a really, really big deal. And it's a threat to the moat of Epic. This is what I think. Then the interviewer asked him, what's going on? What's better? Should you make the drugs cheap or should you make the drugs better? He gave a perfect 0 to 1 answer with an example. He said, oral Wegovy is actually better, and that's true. That's objectively, in my view, better than a needle. Who likes a needle? And there's actually a lot of population who can't stand needles. So that's true in my view, but it is also 10 times cheaper. And case in point, it was 10 times cheaper because it's true when these drugs come out, they were $1,500 a month. They are now $149. So in a typical, Spotify, Uber, DoorDash fashion, you can have it all. You can have Netflix, right? You can have better and cheaper, right? Netflix, arguably better than a subscription to cable. Back in the day, these used to be $180, by the way. Netflix is like, I don't know, 20 or 25, and you get so many more shows. And also, is it better? Probably because it's on demand and you don't have to mess with a DVR, right? Spotify is the best example of a 10x company, right? It's like 5 or 6 orders of magnitude. $10, 100 million songs. $10, 100 million songs. And back 15 years ago, it was $1 one song. Or and if you go even further out, it was like $5 for a CD that had 2 songs. So Hims is applying the same thing. Better product and a cheaper product, right? Better product and app. You order something in the palm of your hand. You don't have to pay the doctor separately. You don't have to go to the waiting room. You don't have to call with the phone to see a doctor. And of course, shipped by mail, cheaper. Loved that part very, very much. And he showed that this was done with Wegovy, indeed. By the way, and if you followed the politics of Dudum, you will find out that politics are much more multifaceted than people think. In the interview, he praised the current U.S. administration on 3 separate times. He praised them 2 times for their fight to reduce drug costs, and he praised them 1 time for promoting real food, like the whole RFK stuff, like healthy apples or whatever. We had 3 praises from Dudum of the current administration. So you see, it's multifaceted. It's not all in or all out. And of course, you may remember the whole backlash 2.5 years, 3 years ago. Well, you see, he's a more multifaceted leader, I would argue. Also, he mentioned that their fight with Novo and the FDA played a key role in actually lowering the cost of prescriptions. And Hims has played a key role in making prescriptions cheaper and more readily available for the people. And of course, they fight for the little man. That's what Hims does. And that's what Hims does, of course, with the Labs product, but that's what they do through all of their product. And I fundamentally believe that it's true that if Hims hadn't attacked, perhaps the drugs would have been more expensive. Remember, was it Bank of America analyst or something who said they were surprised that these drugs would be this cheap? They thought they would come closer to $200. No, $149. If you ask me, that's probably very affordable. I mean, especially compared to $1,500s, right? Customer retention. He talked about customer retention. Customer retention is paramount, much more important than customer acquisition costs. And of course, that's very, very obvious to me. It's an artifact of accounting that we think of marketing as a pure cost, when in reality, you may be recruiting a customer for a lifetime of health needs, right? If you recruit somebody, they may stay on the platform for decades, right? If Netflix spends money to recruit a new subscriber on Netflix, how many decades are they going to stay on Netflix? Same for Spotify. How many decades are people going to keep using Spotify? So I look at customer acquisition cost as, customer acquisition investment. To me, it's an investment. It's an investment because Hims has all of the cross-selling that it needs, and it has really essential products. If somebody has lost a bunch of weight thanks to a GLP-1 pill, you bet they're going to stay on it. If somebody fixed their ED because of a Hims $60 a month pill, you bet they're going to stay on it and not necessarily take a risk changing something. So he mentioned customer retention is paramount because if retention is dropping, then that means you may have a flawed product. The product may not be working. But actually lowering customer acquisition cost is not as big of a problem, and they can always lower it by finding different ways, and I'll get to that in a second. AI, for example, is a way that has been lowering customer acquisition costs, but there's always cheaper channels to acquire customers, and you can always work on that. It's within your control to lower that, but customer retention, that's a much tougher one, and it needs to be good to begin with. Okay, then, this was fascinating. He explained that really Hims is the largest drug distribution channel ever. And any drug company should probably go through them first to try to sell their drugs rather than send sales representatives to mom and pop doctors. Well, that's my interpretation of what he said. And this is very true. In the olden days, how do the pharmaceutical companies sell the drugs? They give an all-inclusive vacation to the local mom and pop doctor if they have been good and prescribed a bunch of their RX, right? That's the way it works. That's the way it works. In the new way that it works, if they come to us, we have the biggest distribution channel, come to us instead of going to the mom and pop sales doctor. Now, I saw online This statement may have gotten a lot of flack online, from a lot of criticism from traditional doctors or people in the health field, and they will criticize and they will say, "Oh, it's a pill factory, it's just a pill mill." They even have this term for it, right? They'll criticize that. As if pills were bad, because you have to realize that there is this, sorry, but I'm going to call it an hallucination. There is this hallucination in the traditional medical field that people are at their best when they don't take a pill. People are at their best when they are as nature intended, just eating whatever and being like whatever nature intended. And of course, me, who's very big into longevity, like, I know it's not going to be possible to live until 120 without pills. Like, pills, in my view, are going to be more and more part of daily life, and supplement, add some pills to your diet, right? That's kind of a Brian Johnson way. Brian Johnson has a menu of pills that he takes. And if you believe that medical intervention, medical procedure should be avoided at all cost and should not be necessary, well, I have two arguments for you. One of them is, how about we get rid of antibiotics, right? I mean, a miracle drug, literally. How about we just say we don't use that? That's point number one. And then point number two, hand washing is a medical procedure from the 1700s, which became mainstream. Hand washing was not part of human daily life prior to the 1700s. And we all died much more often, and we all had many, many more diseases, until everybody accepted that you should wash your hands multiple times a day. As far as I'm concerned, soap is very much just like a drug. And it's a drug that we use every day when we wash our hands. We use soap to kill microbes, right? So I personally don't have a problem with people adding pills to their diet if these pills turn these people into superhumans, which eventually I think is what healthcare is going to head towards. Healthcare is going to get towards the pill makes you a superhuman, and that's going to be part also of the peptide conversation. Look online at people who get on retatrutide, for example, who are perfectly healthy people, and they get on retatrutide, and then they end up like near superhumans, essentially. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but I'm really not exaggerating that much. So peptides can actually enhance life, and yeah, if you're a very healthy person in your 50s, you can probably be much more optimal with the help of human intervention in the form of either drugs, either peptide. You can probably go back to feeling 25, even if you're very perfectly healthy in your 50s. Anyways, I'm getting off my soapbox here, but there is a bias in trad health against prescribing, and it's a long-standing bias, and HIMSS is going to have to spend a lot of decades to fight that. But it's a bias. It's just the way it is. Advertising efficiency. So advertising efficiency, you mentioned that. It's increasing with scale. So first of all, you can use larger channels, and the larger of a channel, the higher the efficiency. He mentioned that back in the day when they did the Subway ad, it was all fun, and it the team was happy about the Subway ad and the ads in the New York City subway, but there really was no way to know if it really had an impact. It wasn't really scalable. The story of HIMSS advertising has been going to larger and larger and larger channels, right? The Super Bowl now being the largest channel that they are into, but he mentioned they advertise on Fox News. I know they advertise on CNBC. They advertise on all of the main mass market channels. Internet, of course. So that's point number one. Point number two, he mentioned that they have thousands of ads now, and that AI has substantially reduced the cost of making these ads, increasing variety. And in my view, that's the future of advertising. I believe you will have thousands of different ads, and they will be generated with a lot of AI, and you will match each customer profile. These big data firms, the Google, the Meta, they have a clear picture of the person online. They know exactly that person. One-to-one marketing is what it's called. So you'll be able to tailor the perfect ad for the perfect person. And so you can make ads that fit exactly the customer that sees the ad. It's genius. You don't have to do some very, very mass segmentation. You can just tailor a one-to-one ad. I even see a future where one person, one ad, AI generated. I even see that future down the road. No surprising to me that AI is actually reducing the cost of making the ads. And then lastly, he mentioned that if they are a global brand, which they are taking the direction of being a global brand, it may lead to a very efficient marketing channels. And he mentioned especially the World Cup. He was like, yeah, why wouldn't we sponsor the World Cup? Well, 2028 is going to be a little too soon, right? But if in 2032 there's HIMSS in most countries, if HIMSS is all over the place, then it could be a very, very low cost to acquire notoriety. So that's very interesting. He also mentioned Formula One. Will we see a Formula One with a giant HIMSS logo painted on it? I don't know. That's expensive. This one's expensive, so I'm not too sure about that. But anyways, then he mentioned multiple times, it's time for health to be disrupted. They specifically mentioned DoorDash because they seem to know the CEO of DoorDash, both of them. But they mentioned a bunch of other tech firms, and it says time for health to be disrupted. Clearly, Dudum's reference circle is big tech disruption. The company is in Silicon Valley. That's where Disruption Central. That's where it all happens. And then lastly, he said two more things. He loves to be public. He said it puts the pressure on. And he said the company is being dismissed over and over again. And he's like, today we're being dismissed as just a weight loss company. He went through the history. We were just an ED pill company, then just a hair loss company. He didn't mention that, but I know people criticize them for SSRIs, right? As if SSRIs were not common medicine, but they got criticized for SSRIs at one point. He said, okay, this time we're dismissed as just a GLP1 company. And here is what he said after that. He said, next year we'll be dismissed as just a peptide company. So peptides are coming. That would be my guess. Peptides are definitely coming. And then he mentioned he was 37-year-old. He has decades to go, and he's committed to winning. What an outstanding interview. The title of that video doesn't do it justice. That's the title right there if you want to see it again. It doesn't do it justice. This was a great interview. If you're a serious HIMSS investor, I highly recommend that you listen to it, but you have my takes on that. So hopefully I wasn't going too long. Hopefully. This was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.